Tonight, crews in Taiwan are scrambling to save the hundreds of people trapped and missing after the island was hit with the worst earthquake it's seen in a quarter century. The number of people killed continues to go up. Look at this. We're going to show you what the scene looked like today. Rescuers working day and night to save people stuck under the rubble, some under buildings that collapsed. You've also got places that are more remote in some of the mountains nearby, along hiking trails like the one you see here, where landslides meant that rocks and other debris just piled up, blocking tunnels, blocking roads. You see the rescue there. And in one stunning video being shown all over Taiwanese television, look at that. You see cars. Did you see that? Backing up in the middle of a landslide. One of those cars can't move back in time, gets hit by a huge boulder. It is terrifying what we're seeing come out as there is this urgent race to try to rescue anybody they can. 10 people have been killed, more than 1,000 hurt, some 700 believed to be trapped, 15 officially missing. For families lucky enough to be reunited with the people they love, it's really hard to overstate how emotional it's been. You see that mother there crying tears of joy when she sees her son again. He was one of 50 hotel workers trapped on a highway after the earthquake happened. Along with rescues, you have some crews in the area working to tear down some of the buildings that we've been showing you, like this one leaning at an angle, to make sure they don't fall over and do more damage. Our Janice Mackey-Freyer is on the ground with the latest.
This is Hualien. You can see the building behind me is tilting very precariously. That's the force with which the earthquake struck here. And this was the hardest hit area. We're about 11 miles from the epicenter, and the numbers continue to rise. More than 1,000 people have been injured, and hundreds are said to be trapped. Emergency crews and helicopters were able to reach dozens of mine workers who had been trapped in two quarries. The focus for search and rescue efforts is in the mountain areas around here. It's where hundreds of people have been cut off. Landslides are blocking roads. They're caught between the rock falls. People are stuck in tunnels. There are dozens who are at a hotel in a national park. Rescue teams have been able to get food and water to them, some medical care if necessary, but it will be a slow process to try to get those people out to safety. Landslides are blocking most major routes. There's debris and falling rock. A dash cam video today said it all. It showed boulders rolling down the road and crushing cars. The other challenge for rescue teams right now, aftershocks. There have been more than 300 of them since the initial earthquake, and now weather is becoming a factor with rain coming into the forecast. Here in the city, officials are taking a hard look at any buildings that have been significantly damaged. The one behind us will be demolished tomorrow as they continue to clean up and move ahead from this most powerful quake in a quarter century.
Our thanks to Janice Mackey-Freyer for that reporting. Let's bring you back here to home now, to Washington specifically, where the president is essentially giving the Israeli prime minister an ultimatum. Make some big changes to how you're conducting the war against Hamas, or face a real loss of U.S. support. That's intense. It is a big and significant moment coming during about a half-an-hour phone call between the two. This is their first discussion since those 7 humanitarian workers were killed in an Israeli airstrike on Monday. You see the scene of that here. Remember, they all worked for World Central Kitchen, that nonprofit run by celebrity chef Jose Andres. The White House saying that President Biden told Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu there has to be a series of specific, concrete, and measurable steps to address the deaths of innocent people, civilians in Gaza, and that U.S. policy with respect to Gaza will be determined by whether or not Israel follows through on those steps. The call was scheduled specifically to talk about that airstrike that ended up killing those World Central Kitchen staffers, which one official says made the president, I'm quoting here, very angry. Israel has called that strike a grave mistake. You see here the faces of the people who were killed, their convoy hit by Israeli missiles, even though they say they notified the Israeli military of their plan to travel inside Gaza. The workers included one 33-year-old dual Canadian-American citizen, Jacob Flickinger, whose parents are telling NBC News now they hope their son's death will fuel change. Listen.
You know, there's got to be some learning coming out of it.
Yeah. The people
who suffer from these senseless conflicts are the mothers and fathers and the sons and daughters and brothers and sisters of people who want peace.
I want to bring in NBC's Monica Alba, who's been following this one for us tonight. And Monica, in the hours after that strike, when we learned that 7 of these World Central Kitchen aid workers had been killed, there was a question. Would this moment be a tipping point when it comes to tone, when it comes to potentially policy from the U.S.? It seems like tonight we are getting closer to that answer based on what we're learning from this critical call.
As close as we have ever been throughout this 6-month war, Hallie, that's absolutely right. And we have always asked that question. You can see the rhetoric change. You can see the outrage grow. But once the policy potentially is going to shift, that's a really dramatic moment. And the way it was described to me by an official who was briefed on the call is they really did say, we know we say this sometimes from time to time, but we really mean it today when we say this is likely an inflection point in this war. And that is because the president asked the prime minister very specific things on this call, as we understand it, to increase humanitarian aid so that more trucks can flow into Gaza, to also be sure that Israel can be a little bit less strict about what materials are on those aid trucks, because there is a big inspection process. So to try to cut down a little bit on that time. And then also this push for an immediate ceasefire, which is language we have heard from the administration. But in the starkest of terms, Hallie, the president told the prime minister, you have to accept the deal and the terms that are on the table right now, and you should do it soon. And that is something I'm told that was a significant shift from this call. And we heard a little bit more as described about how the U.S. views this from top officials after it took place. Listen.
U.S. policy with respect to Gaza will be determined by our assessment of Israel's immediate action on these steps.
If we don't see the changes that we need to see, there'll be changes in our own policy.
And they're expecting to see these changes, quote, in the coming hours and days. So this is not a medium to long-term evaluation period. This is something that is really going to take place very soon, Hallie. And then the U.S. says it could decide to change its position when it comes to conditioning military aid for Israel.
Monica, the core of this, right, is this issue of humanitarian aid. I mean, the whole reason why World Central Kitchen, why other organizations were in the region in the first place was to try to get food, water, and medicine to the civilians who desperately need it. I know that you're also talking with some folks who are working on their own aid project, even though they are thousands of miles apart. Tell us more.
Exactly, Hallie. I met this Palestinian family, 2 brothers, really. One lives in Virginia, the other in Gaza, who have been so frustrated by the lack of aid that they decided to really start their own soup kitchen in northern Gaza. And the reason that they have to do that on their own is because there's all this red tape that the international agencies encounter. So instead, they decided to direct and really raise funds directly so that they could go to buying basic food items that are so expensive in Gaza right now. And so they do have now their own operation there. It started as just feeding about 120 families a day. Now it's up to 3,000 people. And here's a little bit of what one of the brothers told me about why the stakes are so high, including for their own family members and parents who are there. Listen.
They grinded corn and grain meant for rabbit and pigeons, and this broke me.
What does a hot meal mean to somebody?
It means survival. It means somebody sees you.
And it seems so basic, Hallie, this idea of trying to get food to people because so many are on the brink of famine. But now in the wake of that tragedy with the World Central Kitchen aid workers, other relief groups have paused their operation. So that is why something like this on the ground, they're hoping to expand, even though, again, the need is just so dire.
Yeah, Monica Alba live for us there outside the White House with a lot of threads to pull on tonight. Mon, thank you. We'll look forward to watching more of your story coming up on Nightly. To weather now, because tonight more than 500,000 people without power. Right now, thousands of flights are affected as this long-lasting storm. Have we been talking about this all week? Yeah, because it is intense, and now it is in, hopefully, its final day of fury. The busiest travel day of the spring break season, too. Think about that timing. Look at this. 3 just very dangerous and deadly days with dozens of tornadoes, really intense winds. You see a tree fell on a car with a mom and 3 children inside. They escaped, but just narrowly. Today, you've got spots in New England feeling more like February than April. A couple feet of snow up there, even as we are rounding the corner into spring. And up the coast, real concerns about flooding. You see waves crashing over the seawall here in Massachusetts. And it is coming on the triple whammy of a travel day. People hitting their vacation spots, coming back after the Easter holiday, and heading to a number of states along the path of totality for that eclipse coming up on Monday. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman is tracking the latest on the weather front. But I want to start with our friend Yasmin Vasugian, who's live for us at LaGuardia Airport. Listen, people don't want messy travel, but you can't control the weather.
No. Yeah, I don't want to take away from what Michelle has to offer, Hal, but, you know, listen, it's the first time we've seen sun in the New York area in the last 72 hours or so, right? So travelers are fairly happy about that. Talking numbers here, 50,000 flights, just about 5,000 or so more than normal today, 48,000 tomorrow as well. Kind of the peak of this travel moment, right? You talked about the kind of confluence of spring breakers coming and going, but also as they are moving for the eclipse, right? Traveling for the eclipse, which is happening on Monday. I've been speaking to folks here throughout the day. One woman telling me one of the reasons why she chose to travel specifically today is because she was taking a look at prices and seeing that traveling on, for instance, Saturday and Sunday was so much more kind of finishing up spring break and then obviously leading up to that eclipse. Take a listen to some of what I heard today.
I watched all this stuff this morning when I was at the laundromat, like on the news with the weather and stuff like that. So definitely was checking. But it seems like my flight's on time.
We found the prices like for show tickets and things like that in the city was pretty expensive.
It's pretty expensive.
Availability was pretty low, too.
I mean, I think a lot of folks, Hal, are basically saying everything is more expensive right now. Flights, hotels, getting to and from where they're going. And then you just heard that one woman who's trying to go to every Broadway show while she's here with her daughter, right? That's more expensive as well. Then we're talking about delays and cancellations as well. Looking at FlightAware right now with the numbers. 4,000 or so delays so far today domestically, 500 cancellations. You can see it up on this board. This board was actually lit up in yellow a lot more earlier on today where there was a lot more delays. Things seem to be clearing up right now, which is to be expected. If you look outside your window here in the Northeast, it's a lot more clear outside as well.
The other thing, Yasmin, just real quick here, you know, it's funny because we showed it in the graphic.
Yeah.
And I will tell you the buzz, like in the building, I'm sure it's the eclipse coming up on Monday. Like that's a weather story. That's a travel story. Like I know personally people who are traveling to go be along that path of totality here. How much are you seeing that at the airport? Is it happening yet or more this weekend or what?
Not happening quite yet. Okay. Right? The problem is the closer you get to the eclipse on Monday, the more the prices are going up, right? If you were to go on right now and say, okay, I want to go to Cleveland, Ohio, that's in that path of totality. Tickets are around $1,000, right, from New York to Cleveland. There's a couple things you need to consider here. A, don't look at the sun directly, Hal. Have your glasses prepared. Do not look at the sun.
I'm only laughing. That's the first of about 600,000 times that's going to be said on television in the next 6 days. Like, just be real. You're going to hear that a lot. It's important.
Yeah, I know. And by the way, kids get out of school around 3 p.m. in New York City where they're going to see kind of the eclipse a little bit. Cool. And parents are worried here that kids are going to look directly at the sun and be harmed by that. But in all seriousness, right, traffic jams, lack of parking at airports. And then if you're going to some of those smaller airports, for instance, there's just less ways to get in and out if, in fact, you get delayed or cancellation. So just things to keep in mind if you're looking to get in that path of totality, Hal.
Yasmin Vasugian, thank you so much. We are going to be telling you all about the eclipse coming up over the next few days. But before we do, let's bring in meteorologist Michelle Grossman. I know you are going to be watching the weather for Monday, but more importantly, what's happening right now and the last day of this really intense storm system. Is it officially ending tonight?
Oh, so close. It's officially ending tonight, although we're going to have a little residual impacts tomorrow, but no big deal. We're still dealing with the heavy snow. Good news, we're not talking about tornadoes like we have been the past few days, but still 5 million people impacted by this storm because we have winter alerts and we are talking heavy snow, wet snow. It's cold. A lot of power outages here. We had winds gusting up to 70 miles per hour. And some spots in the northern parts of Maine, the highest elevations could see 24 inches of snow in April. So let's talk about what's happening on radar. You see this swirl here. This is the storm that we've been talking about all week long, and we're continuing to talk about it today and also tomorrow because it's going to park itself right around here. But we're seeing that snow falling where you see the blue. That's the snow. The lighter blue is the heaviest snow. So still seeing the snow coming down in those those areas that don't have power with those really cold temperatures. And we still have some circulating showers as well. Notice those brighter colors, the yellows and the reds. Those are heavier showers. So we're not out of the woods yet, although we're not talking about severe weather. So as we go through it tonight, we're going to continue to watch the snowfall. Also, the rain showers fall. It's going to be chilly and breezy with those rain showers. And then by tomorrow, we're going to see that low kind of park itself off the coast there. And it's going to bring those the circulation of showers. So isolated amounts of 24 inches. Generally, we're going to see another 6 to 12 tonight. As we go throughout the west, because I do want to talk about this. This is going to be our next system that's coming on shore. We're looking at rain and snow in the west, especially in portions of central California. Tomorrow, it's going to move inland into the Great Basin, scattered showers across southern California. And we're looking at some rain. Let me skip forward here because I just got to wrap. But I do want to show you our eclipse forecast because we do have the chance of some rain. We have the chance of severe weather in the southern plains. And as we go throughout time here, we're going to have some spots that are nice here where we're looking at some conditions. Well, forget that. We'll do that next hour. But we do have places in the portions of New England that look really good, but we'll go all through it next hour. Hallie?
You are such a pro. Michelle Grossman, getting the rap in her ear, banging through the weather maps. We love it.
Everywhere.
It is such good information. Thank you so much. We will talk again next hour.
Awesome.
Michelle, thanks.
You.
Let's take you out west because the FBI and LA police are investigating. It is bananas. One of the biggest heists in LA history, a multi-million-dollar cash burglary that happened at a place where they store money in the San Fernando Valley. This happened back on Easter Sunday, maybe as much as $30 million in cash. $30 million in cash, more than any burglary or armored car heist in LA history. Elwin Lopez is joining us now. Elwin, there's so much mystery surrounding this. How it happened, why they didn't discover this until Monday morning after Easter Sunday. I mean, it honestly feels like something out of a Hollywood movie.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a multi-million-dollar mystery, if you will. Investigators are still trying to figure out exactly how those burglars were able to get not only inside the building, but inside that vault without triggering any alarms. We spoke to a person who works at that building who was talking about the immense amount of security in that place. We have decided, because he asked, to get him to be anonymous for this because he doesn't want his identity disclosed. But I want you to take a listen to exactly what he said in terms of how secure that place is.
The place is pretty secured. Alarm system, they check to make sure that the alarm is set up. So, you know, just to think that they were able to go through the security system and get away with all that money, it's a shocker.
So this storage facility is a place where businesses in the area store a ton of their cash, right? So you see armored vehicles going in and out. A lot of times we think that they go from the bank to the business, from the business to the bank. But no, there are these storage facilities where they have all of this money piled up, right? So when we talk to investigators about this, they're not telling us exactly how much money was taken. We've heard up to 30 million, tens of millions of dollars is what we know as of right now. The FBI leading this investigation. This all happened Easter night, and the operators of this facility didn't find out until the next day. One of the things that you see in that aerial shot is there's a large hole in the wall, and it is now boarded up. There's some debris on the floor. Investigators have not confirmed whether or not that is part of the heist, but as of right now, no suspects have been identified. Hallie?
Elwin Lopez, thank you very much. Lots more to come on that one might imagine. Appreciate it. Today, lawyers for women denied an abortion in Tennessee are telling a panel of judges the state's near total abortion ban is endangering the lives of women who are pregnant.
None of these 7 plaintiffs wanted what the defendants have called an election abortion. They all needed abortion care because of serious risks to their own health.
At the center of this case, 7 women who went through severe and dangerous pregnancy complications and were denied abortion care. 2 doctors who weren't allowed to offer abortion care are also suing the state. But they want to know, what does qualify as emergency medical exemptions? The case named for Nicole Blackman, who was told she couldn't get an abortion, even though the fetus had a terminal condition and she had signs of dangerously high blood pressure that could have killed her. Because she couldn't end the pregnancy, as soon as she found out it was not viable, she had to carry the fetus to term, gave birth, stillborn. Priya Sridhar is joining us now. We heard the state's lawyers today, and some of these critical arguments here argue that the medical exceptions to Tennessee's current ban are clear, that it does not deny medically necessary abortions. So explain that, because these women say they weren't able to get that.
Yeah, so what the Center for Reproductive Rights, which is the organization that's representing these 7 Tennessee women and the 2 doctors, is saying is that even though there is this medical necessity exception clause, the fact of the matter is that on the ground here in Tennessee, doctors are afraid to actually perform abortions because of the liability aspect. This is considered a Class C felony here, which is punishable with anywhere from 3 to 15 years in prison, not to mention a hefty fine, and your medical license could be revoked. So they say that it lacks the specificity that they need in order to feel comfortable to perform the abortions. But as you mentioned, attorneys from the Tennessee Attorney General's office were here today arguing that they believe that that clause is sufficient. Let's take a listen to what they had to say.
We can all agree that the past health circumstances are tremendously unfortunate. I submit here they do not provide a legal reason to invalidate the medical exception at issue in this case.
And just moments ago, I actually got an opportunity to speak to one of the 7 women involved in this case, and she said that she also had to travel out of state to get an abortion, and she also had a fetal diagnosis that her pregnancy essentially wasn't viable. And so she's hoping that this case can help change the outcome for women here in Tennessee, Hallie.
Explain the ripple effect, too, because this could go well beyond simply the state's borders, depending on which way this case goes.
Yeah, that's right. You know, you remember back in the summer of 2022, the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, and many states across the country, specifically with Republican-led state legislatures, went on to pass abortion bans in some form or another. So the Center for Reproductive Rights is actually presenting legal challenges in Idaho, Oklahoma, and Texas. And specifically in Texas, a judge there did rule that Texas's abortion ban was too restrictive. However, the state has appealed that decision, and it's heading to the Texas Supreme Court. So you can bet that those specific states are going to be closely following what's going on here in Tennessee, Hallie.
Priya Sridhar, thank you very much for that. Live for us from Nashville. Still ahead tonight, a NASA employee accused of preying on women, why police think more victims may be out there. Plus, the outlook for hurricane season already looking stormy. We'll explain why experts think it could set some records. We're learning tonight a NASA employee is charged with 6 different sexual assaults, and officials think more victims could be yet to come forward. You see him here, 37-year-old Eric Sim. The DA says he used his NASA credentials to lure in his victims on dating apps, with the assaults happening at his home in Houston. Right now, Sim's out of jail on a $700,000 bond, under 24-hour house arrest, and his devices are being monitored. He's pleaded not guilty to the accusations. NASA says its security team cooperated with police when they arrested him at Johnson Space Center a few months ago. Marissa Parra is joining us now. What is the timeline here? How long has this been going on, and why do they think there could be more victims out there?
Hey, Hallie, good to be with you. So for these 6 women in particular who came forward, who spoke with attorneys, they believe the timeline is between 2019 and 2022. But one thing that they're really trying to get the word out about is this case, because they believe that there could be more victims out there. Before I explain that, I want to have you take a moment to listen to what we heard from District Attorney Kim Ogg earlier.
His predatory behavior with the victims in these cases, along with his NASA credentials, frequently mentioned to gain credibility with his victims, and his international travel, all are clues that could indicate further victims.
So you heard her explaining how and why she believes that he used his credentials to lure in women. And when I had a chance to speak with her earlier, she was talking about how what she heard from the victims, these women, were explaining that they thought that they could trust him because he was a NASA engineer, and NASA is a place that has so much credibility. Everybody knows NASA. And so I did ask also why they believe that there might be more victims, particularly internationally speaking. And she said that they were not revealing all of the reasons why, but when we did take a look at the Instagram account behind this individual who's accused, we do see he traveled quite a bit internationally. But I want to take you to what we're hearing from the attorney for Sims. Eric Sims' attorney said and pointed out that Sim has pleaded not guilty. He had, and this is what they are quoting, this attorney saying that Eric Sims had consensual relations. The relationships didn't turn out the way the complainants hoped they would, he said. adding, we look forward to presenting the whole truth to a jury. So in terms of where things stand right now with Sims, he is out of jail on a $700,000 bond, remains under a 24-hour house arrest with total monitoring of all of his electronic communications. Hallie.
What else have we heard from NASA here, Marissa? Have they said anything about the termination of any contacts, et cetera?
Right. So I want to point out, you might have just seen a clip on your screen and might have been wondering what you were seeing at home. That was a clip from a parody video that Sims was actually a part of. So a while back, there was a parody video of a video called Gangnam Style. There he is right there. So he was someone that did have some prominence within NASA. And NASA hasn't really commented too deeply on this, saying instead, I want to point you to what we have heard from them. Quote, NASA will take any and all appropriate personnel action based on our own investigation, as well as facts shared with us from local investigative and prosecutorial organizations. So in short, they're really not saying anything on his current status within NASA, but making it clear that his status will depend on those investigations, internal and external, Hallie. That's where we stand in terms of what we know right now.
Got it. Thank you so much for that breakdown. I really appreciate it. More to come potentially on that story, too. Thanks. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, we now know the name of the woman who was killed by a charging elephant in Zambia. We first told you about this yesterday. She's 79, Gail Matson from Minnesota. Her daughter saying she died while on her dream adventure. Her close friend says we will miss her smile, her joyful laugh, and her shared joy of living. Number 2, the politics front. No labels, no candidates. You know that bipartisan group that's been working to try to put together maybe a third-party presidential ticket or at least ballot access? They are ending their efforts. The organization's co-founder says they didn't find a candidate with a credible path to winning the White House. NBC News reports at least a dozen people rejected the recruiting efforts from No Labels. Number 3, first look at the Atlantic hurricane season. Not ideal if you like the sunshine. I guess if you like hurricanes, fine. It's expected to be very active. We're talking nearly 24 named storms, 11 hurricanes. The average, 14 named storms and 7 hurricanes. So what's the reason that this is potentially going to be an above-average season? Ocean temperatures are getting warmer, experts say, and there's a switch coming up to a La Nina weather pattern. Number 4. Former President Bill Clinton telling all about his life since leaving public office with his new memoir, Citizen, due out in November. It'll cover everything, apparently, from his wife Hillary Clinton's presidential campaigns to his views on the January 6th Capitol attack. Number 5, the Powerball jackpot. Get ready, it's up to $1.2 billion after nobody matched all of the winning numbers last night. It is among the top 10 biggest jackpots in American lottery history. It's the 8th largest. Next drawing is Saturday. I feel compelled to remind you, you're almost certainly not going to win. But hey, record setting, we got a report on it. You get all your news right here on this show. To Kansas City now, where lawyers for the Chiefs wide receiver Rashid Rice are asking fans, the media, to keep an open mind about their client after that car crash he's taking responsibility for. Watch.
Don't judge him, Robbie, just based on this incident. Find out who he is, and then kind of develop who you think this young man is. He's a young man that made a mistake.
Okay, remember, this is the dash cam footage from that 6-car crash in Dallas. 4 people were hurt, and Rice's attorney confirms that he was behind the wheel of one of those cars. And there's this video that appears to show Rice and the people with him just like kind of casually walking away from the scene. You can see Rice's apology on his Instagram story. He says he's taking full responsibility for his actions. He says he met with police. Shaquille Brewster is joining us now. Over and over, Rice's attorneys are asking people now today to look at his whole life, not just his, this one particular incident, with his attorney saying that Rice did plan to take care of the victims here.
Right, Hallie. You heard both a call to kind of reserve making a formal and final judgment while also hearing a focus on the victims. And remember, while police say no one was killed in this accident, that there were no serious injuries, there were 2 people who were treated at the hospital and a couple of others who were treated on the scene there. So his attorney this morning now saying that he's in contact and will be reaching out to the legal representation for the other victims or for the victims involved in this crash, and we got a little sense of what the motivation behind that will be. Listen here.
He's going to do everything in his power to bring their life back to as normal as possible in terms of injuries, in terms of property damage.
And there were still a lot of questions after that press conference. It was still not answered why we saw Rice leaving the scene, why there was a mention of some chest pain in one of the videos, or what exactly was in the car. The attorney kind of deflecting those questions and saying that they will wait until the rest of the investigation goes on. But we should note that, you know, the attorney said that the legal team and Rice have met with law enforcement twice now, and that he answered, quote, every question asked of him. And there's also a question of what this can mean for his career. Of course, he was on a Super Bowl winning team just back in February. The NFL is still pretty much not commenting on this. And the president of the Kansas City Chiefs essentially saying they're going to wait until the rest of the investigation and then they will have an appropriate reaction, Hallie.
Shaq Brewster covering all that for us tonight. Thank you. A lot more coming up here on the show, including a stunning new report showing years of progress for women in business coming undone, at least this year. We're going to tell you what's behind it. Plus, Hank Aaron's 715th home run like you've never seen it before, where this particularly unique view of history has been hiding for 5 decades. A furry friend missing for months is finally home. Details on this long journey. But first tonight, the FDA getting a little bit of backlash for approving a genetic test that's supposed to be able to tell if you're at risk of having an opioid addiction. The test can be taken before you get a prescription for an opioid from your doctor to see if you're more likely to have this addictive gene. But a group of scientists and researchers now says this test does not predict opioid addiction, and I'm quoting here, any better than chance. They're basically saying it's like a coin flip. They now want the FDA to make a super rare move and pull back its approval. I want to bring in Berkeley Loveless now, who's been reporting on this. Explain the argument here and why it would be significant if the FDA did pull back approval.
Yeah, so the company behind the product claims that this test can detect genetic markers that are associated with opioid use disorder. But many in the science community are actually deeply skeptical that this test can predict opioid addiction based off genetics alone. So they say addiction is a complex disease, involves other factors, including age, socioeconomic status, as well as one's exposure to the disease. And so if a test fails to identify a person with this disease, it could cause doctors and patients to both have basically a false sense of security about their opioid use. On the other hand, if you mislabel a patient, it could cause the doctor also to not give a prescription. And so we have one doctor in the letter, Dr. Andrew Connolly, who says that this could actually make the opioid crisis worse. It could lead to overprescribing. It could lead to people not being able to get their medication. And so there's a lot of concern about this, Hallie.
What did the FDA then base the approval on, right? Like, if it's essentially a coin flip here, how did we get to the point where the FDA said, yeah, okay, this is actually a good idea to do?
Right. So the company submitted data. Basically, this is very typical for tests like this, but they submitted false positives and false negatives data. Basically, this tells you whether or not it can accurately detect somebody with a condition or somebody without the condition. And so it found that roughly 80% of the time it works. So that it basically found roughly 1 in 5 would have a false diagnosis. And so I spoke with the FDA and also reached out to the company, and they're both confident that this drug works. But it's also important to note that the FDA's own advisory committee recommended against approval of this drug about 2 years ago based on this data.
Berkeley Loveless, when will we know what the decision will be from the FDA? What's the timeline here?
So no decision yet. The FDA actually declined to comment on this letter. Okay. It's also a very rare move for the FDA to revoke an approval like this.
Berkeley Loveless.
As well.
More to watch on that. Thank you, friend.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Every day. And because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Western Bureau, workers in L.A. cleaning up what folks call the trash house. You can see it here. Look at all that garbage piling up several feet high. Doesn't smell great, and neighbors aren't loving it. They're also complaining about the rats and the bugs that come along with all the garbage. All the time, they say. Some think maybe this is like a hoarding situation. City records show the owners have actually been fined before over all this trash. Out of our Midwest Bureau, a dog from California who's been missing for like almost a full year. Missing since last summer, has just been found in Michigan. And look at this, that's Mishka reuniting with her family. Look at that. Police near Detroit got a call about a stray dog, picked her up. Turns out she'd been chipped. She had that ID chip, and her owner was out of state. So how'd she end up in Michigan? The vet who took care of her says that's a story only Mishka knows. Good that she is back home now. Years of progress for women in business now may be getting undone, with a new report just out today showing the number of women executives is going down. For the first time since Sexy Back topped the charts, 2006, women now have just under 12% of the 15,000-ish so-called C-suite roles. That's those like executive suite roles. That is down, right? That's down a bit. And it's already not a lot. In raw numbers, that comes out to 60 jobs that women had that men now have. Even that is a huge red flag for experts on Wall Street, who call this an alarming turning point for gender parity. Christine Romans is joining us now. So even with the progress women have made, this is still a drop back and a setback in so many ways.
Yeah, so look, you had 20 years of progress, but one of the things that's so concerning about it is that progress only got you to about 12%.
That's the thing. The raw number itself is not like amazing.
It's a small number.
Yeah,
and if you had told me 20 years ago when I started covering this kind of stuff that in 2024 I'd be sitting here talking to you, two women talking about how it had dipped to 11.8% in terms of C-suite positions held by women, 60 positions. I mean, 60 positions, a woman left and a man took it. I mean, that's just a setback. Maybe it's an anomaly, a one-year anomaly, but researchers are concerned.
But there's also like a structural element to it, too, right? Even in this day and age of what a C-suite, job looks like.
Right. And it might be, and in my reporting, I've known a lot of women and talked to a lot of women in these kinds of jobs. There's about 15,000 of these C-suite jobs, the chief executive, chief title is what we're talking about. And they're grueling. They're demanding. You eat what you kill. It really is. It's hard, especially in banking and finance. So the pipeline for women to get there is very narrow and small in the first place. And then once there, a lot of these really amazing women are choosing a different kind of career, making money someplace else, a lot of money someplace else, because they really still are jobs that aren't built. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's still really a man's world. I remember a panel I did a few years ago with CFOs, women CFOs. All of them, in chatting with them, I found that their partner had left the workforce, and the full-time job was managing the children, the household, the education, the violin lessons, the training, the other language, the planning the vacations, the managing the whole thing. So in a way, it takes a lot to support that person in that executive role.
That's so interesting. I want to come back to that idea, but I want to ask about the DEI push that we've seen in so many companies here. One would think that would have, driven more women into some of these positions.
And it's so interesting. This report does not say why, and there's a lot of speculation about why, but it does note this: waning focus on diversity and inclusion programs. So the authors of this study mentioned that there had been, I would say, a crescendo of a push toward this, toward representation, and knowing that when you have representation of women at the highest levels, you get great talent and you promote great talent along the way. Also, that revenue for companies that have women leadership and women board members and women in the C-suites, revenue, it tends to be better in those companies. So it's good for business.
I believe it.
It's good for business.
But you were talking. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But there's been a concern. Earnings calls lately have not had as much diversity and inclusion mentioned because there is this anti-woke backlash that they're trying to avoid.
But so when you talk about that, right, when you talk about that piece of it, when you talk about the structural systems that are in place, what do we do? Like, what do we do? And not to get all like woo-woo self-navel-gazy here, but like as women in an industry, right, as women watching that are in an industry who are leaders in their industry, what do you do about that?
So these authors call this an alarming turning point, these numbers, because if we do exactly what we're doing now, we will have equity in the C-suite sometime between 2055 and 2072.
Jeez.
I mean, just think about that. I can't even think about that. That is so far away. So we're not doing the right things. But, I have a senior in high school. Look at all these colleges. There are more girls in college than boys in college. I mean, I'm thinking that maybe there'll be this tipping point at some point where women are just going to, like, boom, be shot out of a cannon. But I thought that 20 years ago as well, and it didn't happen yet.
I think optimism is the only way to look at that one, right? In the glass half full. Christine Romans, what a great conversation.
Nice to see you.
Thank you for having it with us.
Hallie.
Appreciate it. Still ahead here on the show, a tech giant's secrets stolen. How somebody apparently robbed Google of some of its AI intel. To tonight's original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And tonight we're talking about a James Bond plot come to life, basically. Our team learning some new details about this man from China. You're about to see him here, who worked for Google and who allegedly stole a ton of information about a years-long AI project to try to take it back to China to make it for himself. National security experts, listen, cue a kind of freak out here, as our Ken Delanian learned. Take a look.
The worst-case scenario for an American company and the stuff of spy thrillers. A Chinese national accused of stealing America's latest crown jewel in tech, artificial intelligence. But it's not fiction, and it just happened to Google.
We've unsealed an indictment against a Chinese national.
Lin Wei-ding was one of many Chinese nationals and other immigrants who play an important role working on cutting-edge technology at the tech giant.
There's a shortage of AI engineers, so companies hire Chinese nationals.
Prosecutors say Ding secretly uploaded more than 500 Google files containing AI secrets, ironically, to his personal cloud account. According to experts like Cornell computer science professor Bart Selman, the AI technology took more than a decade to develop.
10 to 15 years of development by Google out the door in a matter of couple of mouse clicks.
So that's one of the big problems with software. And one thing that's striking of what the employee allegedly has done was not particularly sophisticated.
In 2022 and 2023, prosecutors say he spent 4 months in China working with 2 PRC-based firms and raising money to create his own artificial intelligence company, while another Google employee used his badge to make it seem as if he was clocking into work in California.
That seems like a pretty major failure.
No question there was a ball dropped here. In fact, perhaps several balls have been dropped.
The day before prosecutors say Ding was to board a one-way flight from San Francisco back to China on January 7th, the FBI searched his home, seizing his electronic devices. Ding and his lawyer declined to comment. In a statement, Google said it has strict safeguards to prevent the theft of our confidential commercial information and trade secrets, and thanked the FBI for its help.
Even if you see an ostensibly private actor stealing IP and taking it back to China and forming a Chinese company, it's part of a national strategy.
There is indeed an actual strategy, a 5-year plan that China actually publishes of putting its citizens on alert that we need the following items this year and through the next 5 years, and we'll do everything we can to get our hands on it.
In fact, just 2 weeks after Ding's arrest, the Justice Department charged 2 other men with stealing Tesla trade secrets in order to set up their own electric vehicle company in China.
For years, the People's Republic of China, most specifically the Ministry of State Security, has operated human and cyber intelligence operatives in the Bay Area.
The Chinese government vehemently denies carrying out any theft of intellectual property. But FBI Director Christopher Wray calls it the defining threat of our generation.
Today, and literally every day, they're actively attacking our economic security, engaging in wholesale theft of our innovation and our personal and corporate data.
While Lin Wei-ding allegedly lifted the AI technology, and it could be in the hands of his associates in China, he won't be cashing in. Instead, he's charged with 4 counts of theft of trade secrets. He pled not guilty, but could face up to 10 years in prison.
Ken Delanian is joining us now. All right, Ken, couple questions here. Where is the stuff now? Did Google get it back?
We don't know. A person familiar with the case told us that is not clear. That is one of the big questions that the FBI is going to try to answer here. And the leverage they have is that he's been charged criminally. He obviously was in China trying to raise money to form an AI company, and he had the secrets with him. So, one theory is that he did transmit them, but we just don't know.
Google problem? Like, is this just a Google thing, or is this bigger and broader in the tech industry? Do we know?
Oh, God. Hallie, this is a huge national problem.
Wow.
Silicon Valley is getting its pocket picked by China on a regular basis. Last year, a Chinese national was charged with stealing self-driving car secrets from Apple. You heard in the piece about another Chinese national charged with stealing battery secrets from Tesla. Microsoft was just criticized by a government board for allowing the Chinese to hack into its systems and having shoddy security. And that's just the tech sector. All sectors of American business, there's a saying that among American companies, they've either been hacked by China or they don't know they've been hacked by China.
Ken Delanian, what a fascinating look at this whole issue. And as you say, lots of threads to pull on down the road. Really appreciate you bringing this story to us. Tonight, a scramble to save lives in Taiwan. Our teams on the ground while crews do everything they can. The latest on the push to rescue the trapped and the missing after this deadly earthquake there. You see some of the rescues there. Then President Biden's ultimatum tonight for the Israelis. Stop killing innocent people or else. The president's new list of conditions. He wants the prime minister to get done ASAP if he wants U.S. money and U.S. weapons to keep flowing. Plus, in L.A., the FBI investigating one of the biggest heists in L.A. history. How thieves got away with tens of millions of dollars in cash in a scene straight out of like Ocean's 11. Plus, a NASA employee facing new sex assault charges tonight. How officials say he used his job to lure women in, with the warning there could be more victims out there. And a new report out tonight shows a backslide on years of progress for women in executive jobs. Why the report's authors call it an alarming turning point later in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and tonight crews in Taiwan are scrambling to save the hundreds of people trapped and missing after the island was hit with the worst earthquake it's seen in a quarter century. The number of people killed going up. I want to show you what the scene looked like today. You see it here. Rescuers are working truly around the clock to try to save anybody stuck under the debris. You see some here under buildings that collapsed. In more remote areas, places in the mountains, along hiking trails like this one, you had landslides sending rocks down over paths. You can see one rescue happening there, roads blocked. And then in this stunning video being showed all over Taiwanese television, look at this, cars backing up, that landslide coming down, one car unable to get out of the way. Horrific, with that boulder jumping right, basically bouncing right in front of it, right on top of it. This is where the numbers stand tonight. 10 people confirmed killed, more than 1,000 hurt. And then on the right side of your screen, very scary numbers, 700 plus people trapped, 15 officially missing. For families lucky enough to be reunited with the people they loved, cannot overstate how emotional it's been. Look at this. You see that mom there, she's crying tears of joy when she sees her son again. He was one of 50 hotel workers trapped on a highway after the earthquake happened. It's not just the rescues. You've also got crews working on demolishing some of the buildings you see, the ones that are tilted at those scary angles. They want to make sure they come down safely and don't fall down dangerously. Megan Fitzgerald is joining us now. And the number, we said it, that is so scary, hundreds of people trapped. We are now something like 36, 48 hours into it. What are you hearing? What are we learning about finding these people, especially as weather now becomes more of a concern?
Yeah, Hallie, you're right. I mean, we're talking about a really serious situation here. As you mentioned, you've got rain coming in, more than 300 aftershocks since yesterday. There's a lot of concern here for landslides and massive rocks to fall, which most certainly has the potential to increase the death toll. Rescue crews are working as quickly as they can to try and find those trapped beneath the rubble of collapsed buildings and homes. But as you said, there's hundreds of people that are trapped in tunnels, in hotels, at activity centers, in national parks and mountains. Many of these people cut off by landslides and damaged roads. Now, crews have managed to rescue people who had been trapped in quarries and deliver food to people in other areas, but this is a slow process in an unpredictable environment, Hallie.
The temporary shelters for people who lost their homes, right? Those are near the epicenter of where this earthquake happened. But, you know, what is the process of getting back to some kind of day-to-day life for folks, even as this is happening all over the country?
Well, you know, it's pretty extraordinary. I mean, we're talking about a 7.4 magnitude earthquake striking Taiwan, with the coastal city of Hualien getting hit the hardest. And life is going back to normal. You've got rail service, for example, to the Hualien area that was restored today. And it's incredible. But, you know, as you and I talked about yesterday, this is a country that's well prepared for earthquakes. They have strict building codes and enforcement in place. They've learned from lessons of the past. And, Hallie, you know, it certainly shows here.
Megan Fitzgerald live for us, covering every angle of this one. Appreciate it. Let's bring it back home here to Washington, where President Biden is essentially giving the Israeli prime minister an ultimatum. Make some big changes to how you're conducting this war against Hamas, or face a real loss of American support. This is coming during a very big deal 30-minute phone call between these two leaders. It was their first discussion since those 7 aid workers from World Central Kitchen were killed in an Israeli airstrike Monday. You see the scene of that here. World Central Kitchen, of course, run by celebrity chef Jose Andres. The White House saying that President Biden told Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu there needs to be a series of specific, concrete, and measurable steps to address the deaths of innocent people in Gaza. and that U.S. policy with respect to Gaza will be determined by whether or not Israel follows through on those steps. You're seeing a White House picture of the call here. It was scheduled specifically to talk about that airstrike with those World Central Kitchen workers killed. One official said that strike made the president very angry. Israel has called it a grave mistake. These are the 7 people who died when their convoy was hit by Israeli missiles, even though World Central Kitchen says they told the Israeli military their plans to travel. The workers included one 33-year-old dual Canadian-American citizen, Jacob Flickinger, whose parents are now telling NBC News they hope their son's death will fuel change. Listen.
You know, there's got to be some learning coming out of it.
Yeah. The people who suffer from these senseless conflicts are the mothers and fathers and the sons and daughters and brothers and sisters of people who want peace.
NBC's Monica Alba is following this for us. And Monica, in the hours after this airstrike happened, when we learned that these World Central Kitchen workers had been killed, there was a question of whether this could be a tipping point now for the relationship between the U.S. and Israel as it relates to this war. We are now getting closer to an answer with this, again, very significant phone call between the president and the prime minister.
This is the first time, Hallie, really, that we're kind of seeing a conditioning of the conditioning of military aid. And that had long been something we were going to be watching for in terms of whether there would be a dramatic U.S. policy shift. And now, in essence, the U.S. is telling Israel, if you don't address these immediate concerns to better protect workers in Gaza, to allow for more humanitarian aid to get into Gaza, then we are going to change our position, or we reserve the right to do that. That's the first time that that's really been communicated in this manner. And so the president really did pressure the prime minister to make some of those changes. And it's not just something that is like at some point whenever Israel feels like they can do it. He told him specifically in the coming hours and the coming days. And we're also learning some new details, Hallie, about what the president said to the prime minister, trying to sort of preempt some specific line about whether the prime minister is going to be potentially critical of the president, and trying to argue that then maybe that means he isn't as staunch of a supporter of Israel. And we understand from sources familiar with the president's comments, he said to the prime minister, don't say I don't love Israel, because I am someone who has been a longtime supporter for decades, the president said, according to these people who were briefed on the phone call, and because I have stood by Israel and will continue to stand by Israel's right to defend itself. We're just asking Israel, the president said, to step up and do more to protect humanitarians, life and civilians in Gaza.
One thing we didn't hear much about, Mon, is anything in the call, at least, is anything about the situation in Rafah, where we know we've been talking about for really weeks now that the Israelis are preparing to launch some kind of ground offensive, even with more than 1 million civilians having gone to Rafah to try to get shelter, to try to find a safe refuge from the war. Any update on that behind the scenes in the sources you're talking to?
We know that that was a main topic of discussion during this virtual meeting that took place earlier in the week. Remember, the last time the president and prime minister spoke by phone, they agreed in that conversation that Israel was going to send this high-level delegation to Washington to have a meeting specifically about a potential ground offensive in Rafah. Then the prime minister abruptly canceled that, so it did become this virtual meeting. And we understand it's still possible officials could travel to D.C. to continue those talks. But the U.S. has not seen any imminent movement that Israel is actually preparing to go into Rafah in the coming days, because that would be a massive military mobilization. But the most important thing the president and top Biden officials have stressed is that there simply is no plan to safely relocate those more than 1 million people who are sheltering there. So they're going to continue to stress to Israel they should rethink that plan. But certainly, I think, Hallie, that does fall into this larger umbrella and category of if Israel is discounting civilian lives, that's something that could lead to the decision to rethinking conditioning military aid to Israel.
Monica Alba, thank you very much for that reporting outside the White House tonight. Also tonight, more than 500,000 people don't have power. Thousands of flights are affected with this very long-lasting storm bringing its hopefully final day of fury to folks out east on what is also the busiest day of the spring break travel season. We have seen over the course of the last 72 hours dangerous and deadly days and nights. Dozens of tornadoes, a ton of wind. Look at that damage from really, throughout the region, from the Midwest to the east and beyond. Look at this. In Brookfield, Connecticut, a tree fell on a car with a mom and 3 kids inside. Amazingly, they escaped, but just narrowly. Today, you've got some spots in New England feeling more like February than April, a couple feet of snow up there. And in the coast of Massachusetts, concerns about flooding with waves crashing over the seawall. It's all coming on a triple whammy of a travel day with folks hitting up their vacation destinations, maybe coming back after the Easter holiday. And then, of course, the very beginning of travel for various people in various states before the total solar eclipse on Monday. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman is tracking the latest, but I want to start with Yasmin Vasugian at LaGuardia Airport. And Yasmin, you know, I'm here in New York this week. We've chatted. Finally, some sunshine after days of torrential rain here, but with more and more delays, we know that there's a domino effect over the course of the last 72, 48 hours or so.
That's exactly what I wanted to start with, because I think that's the good news for a lot of travelers, right? The sun is out. Yeah, exactly. You did steal it from me. The sun is out, right, for the first time in 72 hours. The cars, though, are lining up, but travelers telling you, right, they're happy that the sun is finally out. Maybe the delays won't be as severe as they had expected. I'm going to take you inside. My poor crew is out here in short sleeves because, as you mentioned, it is still a little chilly here, despite the fact that we are in spring break time. Let's talk about some of those delays and cancellations that you mentioned, right? It's 5 and 5. So we got about 500 or so cancellations domestically across the country right about now. That's according to FlightAware. 5,000 delays as well. You can take a look at this board all throughout the day. If you see some of the areas in yellow, that is where we've been seeing some of the delays throughout the day from airlines across the board, cancellations as well. But again, not as severe, I think, as people had expected. When you're talking about people that are traveling, the numbers of folks that are traveling and the flights that are happening across the country, 50,000. That's about 5,000 more than is normal for this time, and 48,000 expected tomorrow, 48,000 flights expected tomorrow as well. I spoke to people a little bit earlier today who talked to me about the timing of their travel specifically, right? Traveling today on a Thursday, because it's not quite the end of spring break, and we're not quite into the moment in which people are going to be traveling for the eclipse come Monday. Take a listen.
I watched all the stuff this morning when I was at the laundromat, like on the news with the weather and stuff like that, so definitely was checking. But it seems like my flight's on time.
We found the prices, like for show tickets and things like that in the city, was pretty expensive. It's pretty expensive. Availability was pretty low, too.
So a lot of things, Hal, are expensive right now, as you just heard from that one woman wanting to go to a Broadway show in New York City. Everything's kind of hiked up right now. If you take a look at, for instance, hotels in Cleveland, which is that path of totality, on that path of totality in Cleveland, Ohio right now, topping around $1,000 a night. If you're looking at the numbers of folks that are going to be traveling to those areas, right, 1 million or so expected to go, for instance, to Texas, 500,000 split between Indiana and Ohio as well. We have not quite seen the number of travelers out there yet heading to their places where they want to be for that eclipse. I think it still is a little early. However, if you are wanting to book travel, the prices just keep going up by the day as we get closer and closer to Monday. So if you want to go, book now, but you're going to have to spend a lot of money.
Like, I'm just thinking about it. It's not just the travel. It's like when you get there, where are you going to stay and how much is that going to cost as well? There is just so much interest in this eclipse. Are you going? Will you be part of the coverage? I'm assuming?
I'm going to be in the anchor chair. I'm going to be in the anchor chair on Monday.
So you will be part of the coverage. Love to see it.
Yeah, but then I'm going to look out my window. Afterwards and just kind of catch a glimpse of it.
You and me both, Yasmin Vasugian. We love to see it. Thank you, friend. Great to see it. Let me bring in meteorologist Michelle Grossman. So, Michelle, we'll talk about the eclipse in a second, but start with, like, what is impacting travel tonight, and that is the storm that is almost over. It is petering out, yeah?
It's petering out, thankfully, because we've been watching it for days. We still do have a few impacts tonight because we're seeing snow falling, and it's heavy and it's wet, and we could see up to 24 inches of snow before this storm is all said and done. We're still seeing some heavy snow tonight, where you're seeing those lighter blues. Also, look at this rotation, bringing those showers, some heavier showers, where you're seeing those brighter colors. So it's not quite over yet. 5 million people still impacted by these winter alerts. We have winter weather advisories in white, winter storm warnings in pink, and we're talking about a whole lot of snow in April for many. This is a nor'easter, so we're looking anywhere from the pinks and purples and blues. That's where we're looking at the highest amount, 6 inches, 9 inches, 12 inches, and isolated storm totals of 24 plus. That is crazy. And then we do have a severe risk. That's our next step, not tonight, not tomorrow, but Saturday. We're looking at the chance for severe storms. That will be our next weather maker coming from the west coast. That west storm impacting them today. Winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. Could see some hail, a tornado or two. And then, of course, we have to talk about Monday because that is a big day. And we're looking at the chance for rain, unfortunately, in some spots. Also, a lot of clouds along that totality route. I'll show you that in just a minute, but we do have some storm hazards as well. This hopefully will come later on in the evening. We're going to watch this very closely because that timing is changing from the afternoon to the evening. So we'll nail it down for you over the next several days, but could see winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. Here is that path, and we are looking at some spots. This spot down here, Austin, Dallas, into Little Rock could see some storms, so that's not good news. But Maine, New England, that's a really good spot to go to.
Okay. I mean, it's like a roll of the dice, though, right?
We're 4 days out. It's cloud cover. Cloud cover is very difficult to forecast, and we're talking about 4 minutes. So we're forecasting cloud cover in a span of 4 minutes.
You're really threading the needle on that one. That is for sure.
Yeah.
We will talk about it more in the days to come, but there will be amazing monster coverage right here on NBC News Now and on NBC News of all of it. Michelle, we're super excited. Truly a once-in-a-generation moment. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
Take you out west now because the FBI and LA police are investigating one of the biggest heists in LA history, a multi-million-dollar burglary that happened at a money storage facility in the San Fernando Valley on Easter Sunday. We're talking $30 million, maybe as much as that in cash, just straight up cash, more than any burglary, more than any armored car heist in the city's history. Elwin Lopez is joining us now. Oh, and there's so much mystery surrounding this. How it happened, why they didn't discover this until Monday morning after Easter Sunday. I mean, it honestly feels like something out of a Hollywood movie.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a multi-million-dollar mystery, if you will. Investigators are still trying to figure out exactly how those burglars were able to get not only inside the building, but inside that vault without triggering any alarms. We spoke to a person who works at that building who was talking about the immense amount of security in that place. We have decided, because he asked, to get him to be anonymous for this because he doesn't want his identity disclosed. But I want you to take a listen to exactly what he said in terms of how secure that place is.
The place is pretty secured. Alarm system, they check to make sure that the alarm is set up. So, you know, just to think that they were able to go through the security system and get away with all that money is it's a shocker.
So this storage facility is a place where businesses in the area store a ton of their cash, right? So you see armored vehicles going in and out. A lot of times we think that they go from the bank to the business, from the business to the bank, but no, there are these storage facilities where they have all of this money piled up, right? So when we talk to investigators about this, they're not telling us exactly how much money was taken. We've heard up to 30 million, tens of millions of dollars is what we know as of right now. The FBI leading this investigation. This all happened Easter night, and the operators of this facility didn't find out until the next day. One of the things that you see in that aerial shot is there's a large hole in the wall, and it is now boarded up. There's some debris on the floor. Investigators have not confirmed whether or not that is part of the heist, but as of right now, no suspects have been identified. Hallie?
Elwin Lopez, thank you very much. Lots more to come on that one might imagine. Appreciate it. The head of Disney exclusively appearing with CNBC today, saying a plan to find the company's next CEO is the board's top priority. Listen.
They established this as their #1 priority from the moment I came back. This is a big, complicated company, and not only is it important to choose the right person, but it's really important to give that person all the opportunity in the world to be successful in the job. And the board's very focused on who the person is, when the decision should be made, and essentially how the handover of sorts will take place.
These comments from Bob Iger coming a day after he successfully fended off a challenge from an activist investor. Remember that activist investor Nessim Peltz has been critical of Disney for a lot of things, like losing money and, in his view, not having a CEO succession plan. Iger calling that fight a distraction, but he says it gave the board an opportunity to talk about company priorities like streaming.
They care about what ends up being our top priorities strategically. They want to know about the future of ESPN. They want to know about streaming and how that can be profitable. They care about the quality of our films, and they're very interested in growing our parks and resorts business, where we said we're going to spend $60 billion over the next 10 years.
Lawyers today for women who were denied an abortion in Tennessee telling a panel of judges that the state's near-total abortion ban is putting the lives of pregnant women at risk. Listen.
None of these 7 plaintiffs wanted what the defendants have called an election abortion. They all needed abortion care because of serious risks to their own health.
7 women at the center of this lawsuit. They were denied abortion care, along with 2 doctors, also part of the suit, who were not allowed to offer that care. But they all want to know, what does qualify as an emergency medical exemption? The case named for Nicole Blackman, who was told she could not get an abortion even though the fetus had a terminal condition and she had signs of dangerously high blood pressure, which could have killed her. Because she couldn't end the pregnancy as soon as she found out it was not viable, she carried the fetus to term and gave birth stillborn. Priya Sridhar is joining us now. I know you just had an opportunity, Priya, to speak to one of the plaintiffs in this case. What's she telling you about how she wants to see this play out?
Yeah, so Monica Kelly actually had a very similar story to Nicole Blackman's story that you just talked about right there. Her fetus was diagnosed with several conditions that essentially made it an unviable pregnancy. Fortunately, she wasn't forced to carry it to term like Nicole was. She was actually able to travel out of state to Florida, where she was able to get an abortion almost exactly a year ago. Let's take a listen as to what she had to say.
It's definitely a sensitive time. It's hard to relive and hard to go through, but I just want women to have their rights back. So if I can make a difference in that aspect, then it's all worth it.
She said that having to relive this in court was pretty traumatizing. She's actually pregnant again right now, and it's looking like it's a healthy pregnancy. But she really is hoping that this case could somehow stall the abortion ban that's in place here in Tennessee right now.
Talk about the state's argument here about why these women were not able to get this abortion care in Tennessee. Any tea leaves you may be able to read here on what's next.
Yeah, so Hallie, Tennessee actually passed this abortion ban shortly after the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade back in the summer of 2022. However, about a year later, a year ago, in April of 2023, they revised it and added this medical necessity exemption clause. And their argument is that 5 of the 7 women who are part of this case got their abortions prior to them basically instituting this clause. And they say that as it stands right now, this medical exemption clause is sufficient. Obviously, the Center for Reproductive Rights is saying that that's not the case. It's too vague. Let's take a listen to what the attorneys for the state had to say.
We can all agree that the past health circumstances are tremendously unfortunate. I submit here they do not provide a legal reason to invalidate the medical exception at issue in this case.
So the hearing just wrapped up moments ago, but we don't have an indication right now as to when exactly this 3-judge panel is going to rule on whether or not to put a temporary block to the ban here in Tennessee.
Real quick, too, Priya, also in Tennessee, there's this bill that would let schools show this controversial anti-abortion video in schools in sex ed class. Where does that stand?
Yeah, Hallie, so this actually passed the Tennessee House and the Senate, and it's sitting on the governor's desk. It's a 3-minute animated video called Meet Baby Olivia, where it shows what they believe is fetal development, but it was actually created by an anti-abortion political action committee. So many opponents to this video say, listen, this isn't educational, this isn't medically accurate, and it could actually go into place if the governor signs this bill as early as the 2024-2025 school year in all of Tennessee public schools, and there wouldn't need to be a parental consent form that was signed. This could just be shown to kids in school as early as this fall, Hallie.
Priya Sridhar, thank you very much. Live for us there in Nashville, Tennessee. Coming up, the scary and deadly moment on a bridge in South Florida. We're going to show it to you. Plus, why the No Labels group is saying no thank you to a third-party presidential run. That's next. We're learning tonight a NASA employee is charged with 6 different sex assaults and that officials think more victims may still come forward. You can see him here, 37-year-old Eric Sim. The DA says he used his NASA credentials to lure in his victims on dating apps, with the assaults apparently happening at his home in Houston, allegedly. Right now, Sim is out of jail on a $700,000 bond under 24-hour house arrest with his devices monitored. He has pleaded not guilty to these accusations. NASA says its security team cooperated with police when they arrested Sim at the Johnson Space Center a few months ago. Marissa Parra is joining us now. Okay, so this idea that there may be more victims out there, how do we know that? What is the status here?
Hey, Hallie. So just to provide some context here, with those 6 women who came forward and spoke to the district attorney's office, we know that that was between 2019 and 2022. They're trying to get the word out about this, however, because they think there could be more. And before I explain some of the reasons why they think that, I want to take you to what we heard from the district attorney herself.
His predatory behavior with the victims in these cases, along with his NASA credentials, frequently mentioned to gain credibility with his victims, and his international travel, all are clues that could indicate further victims.
Now, that was District Attorney Kim Ogg. Kim Ogg explaining to me not that long ago that she didn't want to reveal all of the reasons why they believe that there are more victims out there. But if you take a look at Sim's social media accounts, you would see there's frequent international travel on those accounts. And actually, one thing I do want to point out is you might be familiar with his face. You might have seen him before. We mentioned he was a NASA engineer. He was actually a part of a viral parody video of Gangnam Style that's on your screen. It went viral. It had 8.6 million views. In terms of his current employment status, though, Hallie, NASA hasn't commented on that specific status. They said this short release that I'll read to you in part, saying they will take any and all appropriate personnel action based on our own investigation, as well as the facts shared with us from local investigative and prosecutorial organizations. Now, that is from NASA. Again, not revealing whether or not he's currently employed. But something I want to share also with you, Hallie, is we did just get a statement from Match Group, who owns OkCupid, who owns Hinge as well. They said what has been reported is horrible, has no place anywhere. And they said as soon as they received the report, they did ban his account. Now, as for Sim, we know he's pleaded not guilty. This is what we heard from Sim's lawyer, who said this was a result of consensual relations, saying the relations did not turn out the way the complainants hoped that they would. Quote, we look forward to presenting the whole truth to a jury. And Hallie, I'll end with a reminder that Sim is out of jail on a $700,000 bond. But as you mentioned, being completely monitored under 24-hour house arrest, total monitoring of all of his electronic communications right now. Hallie?
Marissa Parr, live for us on that. Thank you. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, one person is dead, at least 2 others hurt after a partial crane collapse in Fort Lauderdale in Florida. We see it here. The person killed was a construction worker who fell with this crane piece off the side of a building. The bridge the crane collapsed onto is now shut down in both directions for inspections. Number 2, the group No Labels saying no thank you to any candidates. They're a bipartisan group that's been working to put together a third-party presidential ticket, now ending that push. The co-founder of No Labels says they didn't find somebody with a credible path to win the White House. NBC News is reporting at least a dozen people rejected recruiting efforts from No Labels. Number 3, the Oakland A's announcing today the franchise will officially leave the city after this season. They're going to eventually head to Las Vegas, but construction on the stadium there hasn't even started. So for at least the next 3 seasons, the A's will call Sacramento home, specifically a minor league ballpark there. There was a chance the team would extend its lease in Oakland, but that is now history. Number 4, a French diver says he's okay after a little bit of a slip-up while getting ready to dive. Oof, he was performing during the inauguration ceremony for the Olympic Aquatic Center ahead of the Paris Games. He later posted online, oof, that his back is fine, but his ego, ... Hey, man, you're getting out there. You're trying. No shame in that. Number 5, if you're scrolling on X, you might start seeing some of those blue check marks again, more of them at least. The platform started restoring those checks and some premium features for some of its users for free. Remember, for about the last year, X has only been giving them to people who paid the price of $8 a month, the starting price. The specific reason why more folks are getting them for no money, well, that is not super clear at this point. Lawyers for Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashid Rice are asking fans, asking the media to keep an open mind about Rice after that car crash he's taking responsibility for.
Don't judge him, Robbie, just based on this incident. Find out who he is, and then kind of develop who you think this young man is. He's a young man that made a mistake.
Remember this dash cam footage, a 6-car crash in Dallas. 4 people were hurt, and Rice's attorney confirms he was behind the wheel of one of those cars. Then there's the video that appears to show Rice and some of the folks with him just kind of casually walking away from the scene, just leaving. You can see Rice's apology on his Instagram story. He says he's taking full responsibility for his actions and that he met with police. Shaquille Brewster is joining us now. Over and over, Rice's attorneys are asking people now today to look at his whole life, not just his, this one particular incident, with his attorney saying that Rice did plan to take care of the victims here.
Right, Hallie. You heard both a call to kind of reserve making a formal and final judgment while also hearing a focus on the victims. And remember, while police say no one was killed in this accident, that there were no serious injuries, there were 2 people who were treated at the hospital and a couple of others who were treated on the scene there. So his attorney this morning now saying that he's in contact and will be reaching out to the legal representation for the other victims or for the victims involved in this crash, and we got a little sense of what the motivation behind that will be. Listen here.
He's going to do everything in his power to bring their life back to as normal as possible in terms of injuries, in terms of property damage.
And there were still a lot of questions after that press conference. It was still not answered why we saw Rice leaving the scene, why there was a mention of some chest pain in one of the videos, or what exactly was in the car. The attorney kind of deflecting those questions and saying that they will wait until the rest of the investigation goes on. But we should note that, the attorney said that the legal team and Rice have met with law enforcement twice now, and that he answered, quote, every question asked of him. And there's also a question of what this can mean for his career. Of course, he was on a Super Bowl winning team just back in February. The NFL is still pretty much not commenting on this, and the president of the Kansas City Chiefs essentially saying they're going to wait until the rest of the investigation and then they will have an appropriate reaction, Hallie.
Shaq Brewster covering all that for us tonight. Thank you. Coming up here on the show, why officials in a really popular tourist town are trying to get fewer people to actually go. Plus, a brand new warning over what's being called an alarming new turning point in corporate America that could include fewer women. A new report out in literally the last 6 minutes from a top medical journal is taking a closer look at how to fight prostate cancer, because cases around the world are expected to double by 2040 to 700,000 men every year. As far as the deaths, mainly in lower and middle-income countries. The report says longer life expectancy in these countries is the big reason for this big increase, and it can't really be prevented by changes to lifestyle or different things that public health experts would do. Dr. Akshay Syal is joining us now. This report is focused on trying to stay ahead of prostate cancer as people around the world are living longer. The top lines are frankly kind of depressing, right? Like, what can be done?
So, Hallie, this report, it just came out a few minutes ago here in The Lancet, a big medical journal, essentially dividing prostate cancer, or the outlook of prostate cancer, into low income and high income. And like a lot of things we talk about in medicine, the high income populations are doing better. And what's weird is, the diagnoses of prostate cancer are happening a lot more in those high income countries, but the people who are dying are happening in the low income countries. And this report really is finding that, a lot of that reason is because when you screen people, you can, get a hint if they might have prostate cancer through a blood test. In these low-income countries, they're being diagnosed at a far later stage. And like every other cancer, the later you find it, the worse you tend to do. So this report really coming out now to say that, don't forget about these. As these low-income people are starting to live longer because of better health resources, don't forget about this cancer and other men's issues. You can see here prostate cancer, the most common cancer in men around the world, 15% of cancers worldwide, and it is more common in people of African heritage, about twice as much, regardless of where you do reside if you have that heritage.
There is mostly a focus in this particular new report, this new study that's just out on what's happening around the world, right, as far as prevention, as far as impact. But, remind people here that prostate cancer in this country, in the U.S., is the second leading cause of cancer death among men here.
Second leading cause of cancer death, the most common cancer in men, apart from skin cancer. So people are getting it, and people are unfortunately dying from it, Hallie. But, there was a time here in this country where anyone over a certain age would just go and get screened for this. But what we found is that this has to be a very targeted, careful discussion, because there are downsides to screening for this. It's a blood test, and if that test is high, then you have to do biopsies and things like that, which can cause problems. So the American Cancer Society has recommendations for this. We have them on your screen here. So really, it breaks it down down at age 40, 45, and 50. So those who can talk to their doctor about this, about age 40, those who are higher risk, meaning you have a first-degree relative who had this, 45 if you also are of African-American descent, and 50 for everybody else at average risk. And this is something that your doctor may not automatically bring up because it is controversial. So if you, especially if you have a family history of this cancer, of any cancer, make sure you bring it up because it really does change at what age we screen you for things.
Dr. Akshay Sale, thank you so much. Developing medical news tonight. I appreciate you coming on and chatting with us about it. NBC News covers hundreds of international stories every day. And because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our teams around the world have done it for you. Here's a look at what they're watching in a segment we call The Global. Out of Ukraine, a Russian drone attack killing 4 people in Kharkiv, the second biggest city there. Drones flying into 2 apartment buildings and a power plant. The electricity was cut off for more than 300,000 people, all of it coming as Russia ramps up its attacks from the air. Out of Italy, leaders in Venice saying today people who don't pay a new day trip fee will end up fined. Visitors to Venice will be charged €5 as part of a new pilot program. And if you don't pay it, you could end up paying €50, like 10 times that anyway, right? We've been telling you about this program for a while. It starts later this month. It's all to try to control overcrowding in this really popular town. Out of Germany, take a look at this. It is a purple lake caused by a sulfur bacteria. They're usually deeper in the water, but when they come close to the surface, you get like this grape-looking wine-ish color. The lake has now become a tourist attraction for folks who want to grab a quick snapshot of it before it goes away. Elsewhere tonight, years of progress for women in business now perhaps getting undone. With a new report just out today showing the number of female executives, the share of these powerful women in business is going down. For the first time since Sexy Back was the most popular song in the country, that's 2006. Women now have just under 12% of these so-called C-suite roles. That's down a bit from 2022. It's already not a ton. In raw numbers, it comes out to about 60 jobs that women had that men now have. Even that is a huge red flag for experts on Wall Street, who call this an alarming turning point for gender parity. Christine Romans is joining us now. So even with the progress women have made, this is still a drop back and a setback in so many ways.
Yeah, so look, you had 20 years of progress, but one of the things that's so concerning about it is that progress only got you to about 12%.
That's the thing. The raw number itself is not like amazing.
It's a small number.
Yeah,
and if you had told me 20 years ago when I started covering this kind of stuff that in 2024 I'd be sitting here talking to you, 2 women talking about how it had dipped to 11.8% in terms of C-suite positions held by women, 60 positions. I mean, 60 positions, a woman left and a man took it. I mean, that's just a setback. Maybe it's an anomaly, a one-year anomaly, but researchers are concerned.
But there's also like a structural element to it, too, right? Even in this day and age of what a C-suite job looks like.
Right. And it might be, and in my reporting, I've known a lot of women and talked to a lot of women in these kinds of jobs. There's about 15,000 of these C-suite jobs, the chief executive, chief title is what we're talking about. And they're grueling. They're demanding. You eat what you kill. You know, it really is, it's hard, especially in banking and finance. So the pipeline for women to get there is very narrow and small in the first place. And then once there, a lot of these really amazing women are choosing a different kind of career, making money someplace else, a lot of money someplace else, because they really still are jobs that aren't built. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's still really a man's world, you know. I remember a panel I did a few years ago with CFOs, women CFOs. All of them, in chatting with them, I found that their partner had left the workforce, and the full-time job was managing the children, the household, the education, the violin lessons, the training, the other language, the planning the vacations, the managing the whole thing. So in a way, it takes a lot to support that person in that executive role.
That's so interesting. I want to come back to that idea, but I want to ask about the DEI push that we've seen in so many companies here. One would think that that would have, driven more women into some of these positions.
And it's so interesting. This report does not say why, and there's a lot of speculation about why, but it does note this: waning focus on diversity and inclusion programs. So the authors of this study mentioned that there had been, I would say, a crescendo of a push toward this, toward representation, and knowing that when you have representation of women at the highest levels, you get great talent and you promote great talent along the way. Also, that revenue for companies that have women leadership and women board members and women in the C-suites, revenue, it tends to be better in those companies. So it's good for business.
I believe it.
It's good for business.
But you were talking. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But there's been a concern. Earnings calls lately have not had as much diversity and inclusion mentioned because there is this anti-woke backlash that they're trying to avoid.
But so when you talk about that, right, when you talk about that piece of it, when you talk about the structural systems that are in place, what do we do? Like, what do we do? And not to get all, like, woo-woo, self-navel-gazy here, but, like, as women in an industry, right, as women watching that are in an industry who are leaders in their industry, what do you do about that?
So these authors call this an alarming turning point, these numbers, because if we do exactly what we're doing now, we will have equity in the C-suite sometime between 2055 and 2072. I mean, just think about that. I can't even think about that. That is so far away. So we're not doing the right things. But, you know, I have a senior in high school. Look at all these colleges. There are more girls in college than boys in college. I mean, I'm thinking that maybe there'll be this tipping point at some point where women are just going to, like, boom, be shot out of a cannon. But I thought that 20 years ago as well, and it didn't happen yet.
I think optimism is the only way to look at that one, right? In the glass half full. Christine Romans, what a great conversation.
Nice to see
Thank
you.
you for having it with us.
Hallie.
Appreciate it. Still ahead here on the show, a tech giant's secrets stolen. How somebody apparently robbed Google of some of its AI intel. To tonight's original now, with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And tonight, we're talking about a James Bond plot come to life, basically. Our team learning some new details about this man from China. You're about to see him here, who worked for Google and who allegedly stole a ton of information about a years-long AI project to try to take it back to China to make it for himself. National security experts, listen, cue a kind of freak out here, as our Ken Delaney learned. Take a look.
The worst-case scenario for an American company and the stuff of spy thrillers. A Chinese national accused of stealing America's latest crown jewel in tech, artificial intelligence. But it's not fiction, and it just happened to Google.
We've unsealed an indictment against a Chinese national.
Lin Wei Ding was one of many Chinese nationals and other immigrants who play an important role working on cutting-edge technology at the tech giant.
There's a shortage of AI engineers, so companies hire Chinese nationals.
Prosecutors say Ding secretly uploaded more than 500 Google files containing AI secrets, ironically, to his personal cloud account. According to experts like Cornell computer science professor Bart Selman, the AI technology took more than a decade to develop.
10 to 15 years of development by Google out the door in a matter of a couple of mouse clicks.
So that's one of the big problems with software. And one thing that's striking of what the employee allegedly has done was not particularly sophisticated.
In 2022 and 2023, prosecutors say, he spent 4 months in China working with 2 PRC-based firms and raising money to create his own artificial intelligence company, while another Google employee used his badge to make it seem as if he was clocking into work in California.
That seems like a pretty major failure.
No question there was a ball dropped here. In fact, perhaps several balls have been dropped.
The day before prosecutors say Ding was to board a one-way flight from San Francisco back to China on January 7th, the FBI searched his home, seizing his electronic devices. Ding and his lawyer declined to comment. In a statement, Google said it has strict safeguards to prevent the theft of our confidential commercial information and trade secrets, and thanked the FBI for its help.
Even if you see an ostensibly private actor stealing IP and taking it back to China and forming a Chinese company, it's part of a national strategy.
There is indeed an actual strategy, a 5-year plan that China actually publishes of putting its citizens on alert that we need the following items this year and through the next 5 years, and we'll do everything we can to get our hands on it.
In fact, just 2 weeks after Ding's arrest, the Justice Department charged 2 other men with stealing Tesla trade secrets in order to set up their own electric vehicle company in China.
For years, the People's Republic of China, most specifically the Ministry of State Security, has operated human and cyber intelligence operatives in the Bay Area.
The Chinese government vehemently denies carrying out any theft of intellectual property. But FBI Director Christopher Wray calls it the defining threat of our generation.
Today,
And literally every day, they're actively attacking our economic security, engaging in wholesale theft of our innovation and our personal and corporate data.
While Lin Wei-Ding allegedly lifted the AI technology, and it could be in the hands of his associates in China, he won't be cashing in. Instead, he's charged with 4 counts of theft of trade secrets. He pled not guilty, but could face up to 10 years in prison.
Ken Delanian is joining us now. All right, Ken, couple questions here. Where is the stuff now? Did Google get it back?
We don't know. A person familiar with the case told us that is not clear. That is one of the big questions that the FBI is going to try to answer here. And the leverage they have is that he's been charged criminally. He obviously was in China trying to raise money to form an AI company, and he had the secrets with him. So, one theory is that he did transmit them, but we just don't know.
Google problem? Like, is this just a Google thing, or is this bigger and broader in the tech industry? Do we know?
Oh, God. Hallie, this is a huge national problem.
Wow.
Silicon Valley is getting its pocket picked by China on a regular basis. Last year, a Chinese national was charged with stealing self-driving car secrets from Apple. You heard in the piece about another Chinese national charged with stealing battery secrets from Tesla. Microsoft was just criticized by a government board for allowing the Chinese to hack into its systems and having shoddy security. And that's just the tech sector. All sectors of American business, there's a saying that among American companies, they've either been hacked by China or they don't know they've been hacked by China.
Ken Delanian, what a fascinating look at this whole issue. And as you say, lots of threads to pull on down the road. Really appreciate you bringing this story to us. I'm headed back down to Washington, where I will see you on Sunday for our first night anchoring the nightly news from D.C. on that night. I will see you then and right back here Monday on NBC News Now. Talk soon.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.